Hello, ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond. My name is Taylor. Welcome to Call of Sentinels. This is the brand new bullet heaven arena survival game that looks almost like Hades and Vampire Survivors had a baby. Now, this game was developed and published by A17 Games, and I did receive a key through Press Engine. So thank you to Press Engine and A17 Games for the code. As per usual, I will not let that affect my opinion of the game. As the title of the video implies, this is what happens when you mix Hades and Vampire Survivors, where you take the core of the Vampire Survivors gameplay loop and mix it with the boon system and graphical style of Hades, with a bit of a twist. Now, the story is one of a Greek-style kingdom that has been brought to its knees by the forces of evil. With their guardian dead, you, as Gotthard, have to take up the call of duty and become the new protector of the Sentinels. Basically, the 5 gods. The tutorial sees you speaking with 5 different gods through their statues and then bestowing upon you their boons based on their elemental affinity. One seems to be more like earth, nature, and poison based, one is fire based, one is kind of water and ice based, one is electric / light based, and I can't remember the 5th one. The boons in this game do alter gameplay, but they're more kind of augmentations for the basic melee and range attacks that the players always has access to, as opposed to new ways to attack or kind of new ways to play the game. The way that this happens also takes an interesting turn, as you have to complete different trials that the Sentinels set out for you. Some of them involve staying within the circle for a certain amount of time, others are about killing a certain number of enemies inside the circle, and you have others still that say, okay, go light these torches or go find these weird shadow beings and destroy them. They're all very different, relatively speaking. And I think there's 6 or 7 different tasks. Now, each task you get is going to be randomized and is not particular to one element or another. So you could get the nature boon or the fire boon and still be given the same task to complete to receive that boon. What's interesting is when you complete the trial, you're given a choice of 3 boons. Now, each trial is time-based, and if you don't complete the trial in time, you are still given 2 choices, just not the 3rd one. So it does still reward you for trying and getting most of the way. Now, these boons can be leveled up twice after taking the basic version, so levels 1, 2, or 3, and when you have level 3 boons from 2 separate trees, 2 separate affinities, you can get a duo boon. Now, I'll be using some terminology from Hades, so if you're not familiar with that game, basically, when you get a boon from 2 separate gods to a certain level, you can get one that combines both of their elements to give you a brand new attack. Now, these duo boons are a big bonus. That's really something you want to shoot for and be kind of controlled in what affinities you're looking for. Now, you don't have full control over what, Sentinels will spawn. Usually in a level, you have 5 rounds, and among those rounds, each round 1 to 2 Sentinels will kind of bestow upon you their boon. So then you have to choose either the one or between one of the 2 that you're given, and kind of figure out, okay, where do I want my build to go? What am I really looking for? What would synergize well, and what's maybe not as useful for me? So each one of those levels that has 5 rounds has 3 waves of 5 rounds. So 15 rounds total, meaning you can really experiment and kind of grow and see what kind of boons you have access to. These levels also end off with a boss fight. Now, I only fought the first boss, the Manticore, which was a lot of fun. I did die once or twice, but was able to get it in the end, and I really enjoyed it. The game also has a bit of meta progression with the different trinkets that you can buy for your character that give them a percentage-based increase for future runs, whether that's, additional gold, better defense, better attack, or other things that'll kind of just improve the overall experience. So I know I said earlier that you play as Gotthard, but there are actually a few different characters you can unlock and select from, which will have different playstyles for the 6 story levels, or the endless mode, but I'll get to that. So these characters also have access to different weapons, which will change up their playstyle even more. Now, the main difference between the characters seems to be the different elemental affinities they have access to. For example, Gotthard has poison, light, and fire, whereas the second character unlocked, I believe, had light, fire, and water. I can't quite remember. But every character seems to have access to 3 out of the 5, and those 3 will obviously have some overlap, but you can kind of really play around and decide, hey, what do I want to try out? What do I think would work best for the way I like to play? Now, there are over 250 unique boons in total, which I think is awesome because it really lets you dive deep into, okay, what do I want out of each tree, and what elemental affinities do I think look the most interesting, or do I want to try out the most? And it gives you a ton of variety in both the individual boons and the duo boons. And yes, I have said boon way too much now, it doesn't sound like a word anymore. Now, I've only experienced a handful of these, but it was a lot of fun, especially when I set the auto aim and auto attack, because initially you have to manually aim, and then I was pulling right trigger to attack. When I changed it over though, not only did my attack speed get faster, it was a lot easier on my hands, so I do highly recommend you set that auto aim, auto attack to kind of give yourself a break. Now, I have over 100 hours in Soulstone Survivors and a couple of the other arena survival games, so I would like to think that, you know, I've been around the block, so to speak, and this one definitely felt unique because of its use of the boon system, and I personally will admit that I love Hades. So that was a big selling point for me to say, hey, I want to try out this game and I really want to experience what their take on that boon system is. Unfortunately, they do have voice-acted characters that are not at the same level as Hades was. Now, I don't know the size of this studio and I don't want to compare the two. I do think the voice actors that they got, for the most part, have done a pretty decent job. Definitely better than I could do. My biggest gripe with the voice acting is that the gods, and especially the main villain, outshine and really kind of highlight just how not great Gotthard's voice actor is. They sound very rigid and very stiff in what they're saying. I have not played as the other main character who I unlocked, so I don't know about their voice acting, but again, having your almost secondary characters or kind of your antagonist outshine to a significant degree, I might add, the main character, or at least the initial playable character, is not great in my opinion because it doesn't give you that sense of connection. It doesn't make you feel, you know, necessarily good about the protagonist of the game. And if you're going to have voiced characters, you need to be very careful about the quality that you're displaying. Now, again, I don't want to discourage or, you know, talk down to the developers. They've done a fantastic job with what they had, and I believe this voice actor hopefully gave it their all. If they didn't, then I can understand that from their performance, but I don't want to disparage them without knowing the full story. Now, I've only played an hour of the game at the time of recording to really kind of get a feel for how the levels go and how the different boons are, and I really enjoyed it. You know, I would not be surprised if I put a lot more time into the game to experience the other things it has to offer kind of later on down the line. Honestly, it's a great package, especially for about the $11 Canadian or your regional equivalent that you would pay for this. I could easily see you getting a dozen hours, maybe a couple dozen hours, depending on, you know, whether you really click with this kind of game. Especially when you factor in the endless mode. Now, endless mode, as it sounds, is endless, so you get to really experience how the characters play and what boons you have available and how deep those trees can really run. This was a recent release, coming out just at the end of August 2024, and I would definitely recommend it, especially if you like Hades and are tired of the constant stream of Vampire Survivors updates. Now, I do think they're great, but we all have our arena survival, bullet heaven, whatever you want to call it. We have the ones that we like, and I definitely think this could be the main one for some other people. It might even become my secondary one, because my main one will still be Soulstone Survivors, but this so far has been the highest quality arena survival game that I have played personally and quite enjoyed. So I will definitely be putting a lot more hours into it in the coming months for sure, and that will do it for me. Thank you everyone for sticking around, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I have a series of other indie games coming out soon, so please look forward to those. If you have any other games you want me to check out, please let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.